Millions of Egyptians cast their votes in the country's first fully free ballot, saying a simple yes or no to a number of constitutional amendments. Will the changes introduce a true democracy, or could they lead to yet another autocratic system in which little has changed but the faces of those who rule? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Mike Hanna. This democratic process like none before in Egypt. For the first time, those who live here are able to exercise a meaningful choice. Their vote counting as an opinion, not a mere endorsement of the status quo. Some 40 million people are eligible to cast a ballot, and the vast majority have already done so, relishing their newly won freedom. The debate about whether or not to amend the Constitution has been intense, spilling over into the streets and cafes and homes of those for so long denied the right to meaningful political discussion. The referendum will determine whether presidential and parliamentary elections are likely to take place this year. But ultimately, this is not just about what is being decided. The real victory has already been won by those who fought so hard for the right to make a decision. There are 9 proposed amendments to the Constitution. Let's just take a quick look at them. Amendments to Article 75 specify the parents and spouse of the president cannot have dual citizenship. Currently, the only requirement is that the presidential candidate should be born to Egyptian parents. Amendments to Article 76 eases the nomination process for presidential candidates. In its current form, the article makes it nearly impossible for independents to run. Article 77 focuses on term limits for the president. The amendment would provide for a 4-year term in office with a maximum of 2 terms. Currently, there are no restrictions on how many 6-year terms a president can rule. And the proposed change to Article 88 provides for judicial oversight of the entire electoral process, from voter registration to the announcement of results. At present, there is no judicial supervision of elections. Well, to discuss this further, joining me now is Dr. el-Aryan, a senior figure and spokesman for the Muslim Brotherhood. Rabab al-Mahdi, an activist and political science professor at the American University in Cairo, and Amra Shalakani, assistant professor of law at Cairo University. Welcome to you all. Let's begin with you, Amra Shalakani. There was a real sense of excitement out at those polling stations, was there not?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. This is my first time to vote, and I went very abruptly with my finger into the inkwell as someone who has not voted before. And you could sense around you that there was people were helping each other, elderly would come, and people on their own would actually allow them to have sort of a senior citizen priority to enter the electoral post, because some of the lines were quite long. An hour ago, it would take you almost 2 hours to be able to enter. Yes, there was definitely a sense of excitement. And
Rabab al-Mahdi, you also a first-time voter?
Absolutely. I was very excited. I took a picture, actually, of the event. And just like what Amro was saying, that whether you're voting, you're advocating for a yes or no, there was a sense of excitement, and it was the first election ever in Egypt that no faction within the opposition was calling for abstention or boycotting an election. This is unheard of in Egypt.
Yes, el-Aryan, I'd like you to pick up on that. I mean, the fact that you had a process here where there were no calls for boycott abstentions, where there was a full participation regardless of which way the vote went.
This is the first referendum. The Egyptians, all Egyptians, they don't know what is the results. They are waiting overnight tonight to see what is the result. Is it yes or no? It is the first time for me to go to referendum, but I had to participate in every election since my life. So it was excited, it was safe, it was very good, well done, well equipped. All Egyptians, you find a long rows outside in the streets. All are calm, no clashes, no thugs. All the fear was frightening the people that it will be, no, it was very, very good, very well done, and it is a success for a good start of democratic life in Egypt. And this moment that the Egyptians are making history, not in Egypt, but in the whole region.
Amr Shalakani, let's just take a look at the amendments. What kind of impact do you think they have, those amendments that I've outlined, in terms of producing, in terms of forging a real democracy? How important are they and how significant?
It depends by what you mean with a real democracy. So we had clean voting today, yes. But did we have fair voting? I would say no. We've barely had 10 days, even less, to prepare people or to discuss. This is a country where we have not talked politics to each other for 30 years. Suddenly we have a referendum in front of us. Most voters, most eligible voters in this country actually do not or have not had the chance to make an informed decision before voting. So aside from what we think about the articles, and I personally voted no. I don't think, for a number of both legal and political reasons. But even should the vote turn out to be yes, we have to understand that although the elections were clean procedurally, they were not fair in the sense of preparing voters for their choice, for making an informed decision before going to the ballots.
Rabbi al-Mahdi, I see you nodding. Do you agree with that point, that there wasn't enough time?
Absolutely. And actually the thing that worries me most about the referendum and the way that it was done is that it's taking our democratic path, it's taking that transition to be a reduced transition, in a sense, where we tend to focus on procedural politics, procedural democracy, as opposed to the substantial, meaningful changes. And actually, the changes in terms of the articles that were put for change and for the referendum speaks to this exactly. That they were minimal, they didn't address anything to do with the authority of the president, so on and so forth. But again, the way it was done, the articles themselves are taking away any kind of substantial change that this ongoing revolution should have brought forward.
Esam, I'd like you to pick up on that question of, was there enough time to prepare? Was there enough time for the people to make an informed decision?
I was exhausted since this amendment was brought. I think it was good time for discussions. The people not confused at all. They may be confused at first, but when they have good time, and all whom I know, was staying in front of television, change from channel to channel to see what the decisions they can take. Some were decided first, and others were decided also yes or no. But majority of people were waiting, were following discussions, and I think the people was misled from start, because this is a revolution, yes, but the revolution must be go to process of democratic system. And this referendum about these amendments opens the way for a democratic system. Wow? Because the target of this amendments is two targets. One is to have a free and fair elections, and this all Egyptians was asking for, and it was done good in these amendments. Secondly, to have a new constitution. This target was the discussion about this target. It is time to go to a new constitution now, or we must elect a parliament to elect a constitutional committee to give us a good draft for a constitution to be discussed in public. This is the amendments done. And this is the safe way to a constitution. So the people now was not understanding, they want a constitution, new constitution. Some people misled them that is not a new constitution, or yes, that is not a new constitution now. It is amendments on only, as you said, 9 articles. But this will lead us in 1 year after the election of the parliament to a new constitution which represents the national consensus. National consensus is represented in the parliament, which will be freely elected also in a fair and free process. And it is enough time to elect a new parliament and represent all political factions in the society. And we as Muslim brothers invite all politicians, all political groups to come to discuss with ourselves how to go to the election united.
But we're looking at an incremental sort of process here. I mean, Rabab al-Mahdi, the point that we heard there, that you actually have got to start somewhere. If we are going to get a new constitution, it has to begin somewhere. Those who are advocating a yes vote, insisting that these amendments provide that volition towards a next phase. Do you not agree with this kind of incremental approach to forging this democracy?
Absolutely not. I mean, it depends. It's not like the people who were campaigning for a no vote did not have an alternative and just were campaigning for no. They had a different envisioned path than the one that the Muslim Brotherhood or the military council would like to see. First of all, it depends. It's a different set of priorities. It's a different set of procedural issues that we would have liked to see the transition focus on. And there, as I said, there were alternatives. We suggested that we would like to see a presidential council, that we would like to see the time before the parliamentary elections extended, that even if we're going to go for amendments, that the amendments should cover other articles pertaining to the authorities and power of the president, which the current amendments do not speak to. And of course, I can understand Dr. Assam's position, because the Muslim Brotherhood, as the organized force, it's easy for them. They have existing structures where their membership can discuss, can find a consensus within the group. But the majority of Egyptians who've made this a revolution are not politicized. Those 80% do not have those structures, and you cannot assume that it's enough for them to discuss just by watching TV channels.
But you have a situation here where you are looking at perhaps an ongoing delay, continued emergency rule essentially by the military authorities. There was, in a way, a balance here between getting things done quickly and getting things done improperly. Amr al-Shalakani, do you see this as that kind of dilemma, that there was a balance here in terms of trying to get things done as speedily as possible and return to democracy, or create the democracy as soon as possible? There is a sense of haste, is there not?
One, there is no concern. I don't have a concern that the military is going to stay in power and that we might be experiencing sort of a Latin American military coup. That's just not on the table.
Have a concern?
I personally, my sense is Egypt has been ruled by the military since 1952. I'm not waiting for the military to rule me. I am ruled by the military already. The military has ruled Egypt in 52 using a facade of civilian...
Let's just let him finish the point and then I'll give you the
using a facade of civilian presidents, yes, but all of them came from the military. What we are in today is negotiating the terms of the military's final exit from political life in Egypt. And to my mind, it's good actually that the military is now ruling me straight in my face as opposed to with the civilian facade that we've had for the last 60 years. So I don't have that worry of the military taking over. My worry is rushing into elections where you only have two political parties that are organized sufficiently to mobilize people in large numbers, and that's the Muslim Brotherhood and the National Democratic Party, which, regardless of what will happen to it, is fundamentally a network of people who have interests, who will reorganize.
We'll pick up on and discuss this particular point a little bit further later, but first you wanted to respond to that first part.
Yes, of course. It's not the military is a personality. It is the tanks on the streets. This is gives the whole world that the military is luring by soldiers, by officers, not by generals. That is, of course, time for military, for the army to go to camps and to be in the borders. We have a very hot area now in west, in east, in south, and in upper Nile valleys. That is very important, that we are facing a danger from all our borders. And that is time to see that if we are worried about military to rule us, yes, we are worried. Military must not rule us. And it is time now, after 60 years, that the military, otherwise having splice and something like that, or a civilian, appear as civilian, yes, I agree that the military is ruling this country since 60 years. And it is now time to end this era and to have a civil country, a civil state. Egypt to be ruled by people, civil people, not by military at all, hidden or not hidden.
Amr al-Shalakani, your response to that?
I understand Dr. al-Aryan's point and appreciate it very much, the need to move quickly to stability. But I mean, we've just had a revolution. And this revolution has not actually achieved its goal, and its goal was to bring the system down. You can't bring the system down by putting some amendments into a constitution that, legally speaking, has certainly fallen with the fall of the president and the regime in general. Going to vote yes and accepting these amendments means the following: means that we will be entering into parliamentary elections of first the People's Council, and then the Shura Council, and then presidential elections. And then the appointment of a constitutional assembly, which will write a new constitution, leading to, again, parliamentary elections, and then again presidential elections, if we stick with the presidential system. If we don't, then we will have parliamentary elections, and then who knows how the president will be chosen. Right? What this means is, I'm following the scenario under the current constitution. That means that
we can have another option: don't repeat the elections again. We can have a transition, and you are a lawyer, and you are assistant professors, that we can have a transitional article that these an elected parliament and the president can continue to follow their terms.
Yes.
You can see that.
I actually want to follow on the hastiness that Amr was talking about. And interestingly enough, going that fast into those procedures like the referendum actually does not guarantee that the military is stepping out. It guarantees it momentarily, but it actually increases the potential instability of the political system, and this is what happened in Latin America.
Are you talking about a long-term effect that could be more damaging than the short-term gain of a quick election?
Where you would have an unstable political system put in place, whereby the military would have to step in later, and that time when this happens, they're going to step in, they're going to step good.
But Rabab, any delay will enforce both those well-organized organization and others who are starting.
But who talked
it will
about
be enforced. The balance will be the same. The balance between political faction will be the same. Any time is added to all, not to one faction.
But so here we get back to the point, though, that we wanted to discuss
Dr.
a little bit earlier.
I'm not thinking of it in terms of short-term political gains, the Muslim Brotherhood as opposed to the left. I'm thinking in terms of people allowing to organize and to make a decision whether to join the MB or to the Muslim Brotherhood or any other party.
Look, Rabab, we are all under the same dictatorship, autocratic regime. We are all. And we also need to understand something, that we are not, we're not ending the transitional period in 1 year or 1.5 years. We must, to be united for a national consensus for about 5 years. This is the time, the term of the incoming parliament. These 5 years may be enough to establish a new democratic system with a national consensus in behind, not competition. Those who are voting to have some time to organize themselves are looking for competition only. No. But unity of the political factions all is needed in this.
But I want to get back to that point that we said we would discuss, the question of well-established political organizations such as the Muslim Brotherhood, such as the National Democratic Party. Do you believe that they would be at an advantage given the scenario, say there is the yes vote and those elections come quickly? Does that give an advantage? Does that create an unlevel playing field?
Today, I never heard about NDP. Today, I never heard that NDP appear in the scene. Today, there is no National Democratic Party in our life now. It is destroyed. President, Parliament, and
all right, let's hear from Rabab there, shaking her head very vehemently.
Amr was supposed to say something, but I mean, that could not be true. That just simply could not be true. You might not be seeing the figures who are famous or the celebrities, right? But you're talking, this is the tip of the iceberg, the ones who we know. This is, as Amr was mentioning earlier, this is a network of clientelistic relationships that have been entrenched, that have supported the resilience of this regime for actually more than 30 years since President Sadat. So we're talking about more than 35 years. You cannot assume that in a matter of 1 month that it has been dissolved. And just to add certain facts, I've actually got reports yesterday that known NDP members in certain parts of Cairo and rural areas were doing the exact same thing, distributing flour and oil and asking people to vote yes. The idea of that it's just about competition, that we would like to see a process go about that just for political gain. That's absolutely not true. It's for representation. It's not about competition. It might end up with a majority to whoever. That's not the point. The point that people would have enough time to organize and feel
when this enough
represented.
time will be ended, Rabab? In what time?
For the parliamentary elections?
Yes. Oh, yes. I would like to listen from anyone what say need time to give me time.
Oh, yeah,
Amr Shalakani has been waiting very patiently there to make his point.
3 years.
Would you like to make the point that you wish to?
Yes.
See, I'm going to be a bit vulgar. The only people who stand to benefit today from rushing into elections are the Muslim Brotherhood and the NDP. It's very it's simply that simple.
All Egyptians.
Let me finish. The political scene as it currently stands is you have the entire national, a whole spectrum of national forces on one side saying no to the referendum, and then on the other side you have the Muslim Brotherhood and the NDP. Now, it doesn't take much brains to figure out that what is happening here is a rushing to parliamentary elections where the only forces that are sufficiently organized to capture a large number of votes there are the NDP and the Muslim Brotherhood. And now what Dr. Aryan is saying is, oh no, we don't need to get into other elections, and we can just run into voting for a parliament in a couple of months that will stay with us for 5 years is even more horrifying.
If we go to the incoming election,
I'm not done, sir. I'm not done. You asked how much time would it take for us to advance. Well, under the current election, you have if you vote yes to the proposed amendments, then you have certainly parliamentary elections of bicameral, and then you have presidential elections, and then you have an appointment of a committee to draft a constitution, and that doesn't happen in 2 minutes because supposedly the constitution will present the voices of the people. So unlike these amendments that we got, which were drafted without listening to people before drafting them, nor presenting them in an organized way to seek the people's opinion, supposedly the writing of the constitution will be preceded by hearing committees. And then you get the constitution, and then you get elections under the constitution. That is not going to take you less than a year.
Why you get election?
Because I personally, if you're going to rush me into elections in a couple of months where I only have the NDP and the Ikhwan, the Muslim Brotherhood, as the organized forces.
You are insisting that NDP is
Sir, everyone knows this. We all know this in this country.
Not everyone, I deny. And NDP, I have listening.
Is there any other forces besides you?
That NDP figures in Upper Egypt, in Said, tell people to vote no today. NDP.
No, but their official position is vote yes.
Yes,
just like
that is something of history. It is history now in NDP. Not will be in our life now. Either it dissolve itself, either it will be dissolved by judiciary verdict, either the people will vote against it, and it will be absent from our life. NDP is now something of as Mubarak now.
Amr Shalakani.
The NDP is not just a headquarters that we've burnt. It's not just files that have been captured. The NDP is a particular way of doing things which produced the current political scene, including the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood are part of the system that we lived under with the NDP.
And the Wafda, the Tagamo, and the Nasiri, and all. You are going to cancel all opponents.
I'm not canceling
to Mubarak regime.
I'm not canceling
to say that all are part of the past regime while they are struggling 30 years against Mubarak regime and in jail and sentenced to long time in jail. That is
very briefly then, I'd like to get a word from you here, Rabab al-Mahdi. Do you see that this system is going to be cleansed through this type of process, or do you think it needs a longer term process to actually create a clean system in which all can believe?
I mean, absolutely not, and this was the one thing I wanted to follow up in what Dr. Assam was saying. We know from other experiences of transition, especially in Latin America, where there was a similar situation, that how you start the process actually dictates, it becomes path determined in a way, in terms of the outcome. And hence the idea that let's start with anything now, because this process is meant to take 3 to 5 years before it's solidified. In historical and scientific terms doesn't stand, because where you stand will mean what kind of process will be solidified in 3 or 5 years.
Well, at that particular point, we've got to stop this discussion.
But
thank
you are
you
in
so
Egypt,
much.
not in Latin America. Unfortunately, you are in Egypt.
Thank you so much to our guests for joining us, Dr. Essam al-Aryan, Rabab al-Mahdi, and Amra Shalakani. And thank you for watching. We welcome your views. You can email them to us at insidestory@aljazeera.net. I'm Mike Hanna. Bye for now.